Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Sabrina Khan, founder and host of FuelYourselfFabulous.tv. And my mission really with this platform is to play a vital role in the awareness of health and vitality for women, and through that process, revive the way they eat, move, think, and live. Because I do think we're in a world where sort of lifestyle related dis-ease and obesity is at an all-time high. So I think the kind of information that my guests can provide to you is potentially life-saving for some. And in sort of all my life, I've suffered with various things, and I had a really bad sort of cancer scare earlier this year as well, and I've had digestive problems forever, for as far back as I can remember. And my parents suffer from diabetes. It's a big thing in the Asian community. So that's why I'm very interested in this, and in the ethnic cultures, food as medicine is very prominent. So I think that's where I get my interest from. But I'm so excited today because I've actually got a really phenomenal guest. It's Fallon Morell of the Weston Price Foundation. She's also a best-selling author of a book called Nourishing Traditions, and I know so many people rave on about this because of the sort of awesome content of it. So I'm going to put you on to Sally. Sally, can I start off with tell me a little bit about your work and the work of the Weston Price Foundation, because I've been researching it for a while now, and it's absolutely sort of phenomenal work. Because, I'll let you get into it. Yeah, you'll be able to describe it better than me.
Well, the Weston Price Foundation was set up to provide accurate information about nutrition. We don't have any ties with the government or with industry, so we can tell the truth. Our big focus is on pregnant women, nursing women, and growing children so that the next generation can be healthy. We advocate old-fashioned animal fats. We're big advocates of butter, cream, whole milk, egg yolks, liver, the fat on the meat. We cook in lard or tallow. And these fats carry critical vitamins, vitamins A, D, and K, that you cannot get anywhere else in the diet. And these are the vitamins that are so important for reproduction and growth.
Because these are the very foods that we are told not to eat today. I mean, look at any of the diet theory and look at any of the diet concept. And these are the very sort of foods that people are telling us not to eat. So you must spark a lot of controversy in the area of food and nutrition, Sally.
Well, we certainly do, although most people, when they hear us, they think, oh, of course, that makes perfect sense. That's the way our ancestors ate. And they can look back to healthy grandparents and aunts and uncles who lived a long time eating these foods. These are the foods that were designed for mankind to eat, and you cannot make substitutes and expect us to be healthy. I mean, there are substitutes out there, margarines and spreads and vegetable oils and the dressings and the fake cream and the Cool Whip and all this stuff. That's what mostly people are eating today, and it's not the same. It's not only does not contain the vitamins you need, but those types of foods contain a lot of harmful things. They cause cancer, cause diabetes, cause heart disease. This chronic disease we have is being blamed on the animal fats, whereas in fact, it is the industrial vegetable oils that are the main cause. That's number one. Number two is all of the refined sweeteners, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I've heard of the fact that it's the refined foods and the sugars and the processed foods. But do you want to tell us a bit more about sort of why fats are so essential for the diet? Do you want to go a bit more into details of that, Sally?
Why these animal fats are essential?
Yeah, why they are essential.
Yes, well, the key reason, of course, is that they carry these fat-soluble vitamins, which you cannot get anywhere else. Also, saturated fats are very important for the body. You need saturated fats for all the processes in the body, and you need saturated fat to form your cell membranes. That's the coating around the cell It's composed of millions of fatty acids, and at least half of them are supposed to be saturated, or your cells just don't work. And so if you're not eating saturated fat, your body can make them out of carbohydrates, and people then crave carbohydrates to get the saturated fats they need. The problem with the carbohydrates is they're otherwise empty. They don't give you the vitamins that the body is expecting to get from foods like butter and egg yolks.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the cell membranes, which is a critical component of the cell, and again, a lot of your brain is composed of, you know, your brain
Saturated fat, yes.
Fats for functioning correctly as well. So, I mean, like I said, this must just cause such a controversy and, you know, spark off a lot of, well, sort of issues with. I mean, how do you? I mean, I've seen a lot of the research that the foundation has done. Do you want to go into a little bit more about sort of when Dr. Price was, you know, how health relates back to teeth as well? Because when he was studying primitive cultures, there was gradually a change as the sort of Western foods came into play. There was a change in the physical features of the face and
yes.
teeth.
Yeah, it wasn't a gradual change. It happened in one generation. It happened very quickly. So the cultures that were eating their traditional foods, which were very rich in animal products, very rich in vitamins A, D, and K. I mean, these people, when they killed an animal, they ate the liver first. Yes. They ate the brain. They ate the organ meats. And the muscle meats were often thrown away. They're not nearly as nutritious. Anyway, these people had beautiful broad faces and naturally straight teeth. And within one generation, they developed rampant tooth decay. And then the next generation, the faces of the children were more narrow and the children needed braces. The teeth were crowded and crooked. So the palate had not developed as wide as it's supposed to, and there was not enough room for the teeth. And the key vitamin for the development of the face is vitamin K. That's what helps the cheekbones grow wide and the palate grow wide, so there's enough room for the teeth. And again, we find vitamin K in certain animal foods like butter and egg yolks, liver, all of these foods that we're being told not to eat.
But the thing is, okay, tell me this, Sally. So, you know, my ancestors, if I think about my grandparents, they lived on the farm. They ate the food from the land. You know, butter was churned at home. Milk came raw from the cows. But they did a lot of exercises. They were working in the fields. They were working in the farms. They were consuming a lot of calories. I mean, today our lifestyles are very much based around an office, a computer. I mean, do you still recommend such kind of diets for? You know?
Absolutely. You need those fats for your brain. And if you're not eating those fats, you're eating the bad fats, which actually have more calories in them than butter. So that's just a false argument. Whether we are exercising a lot or not, we still need those fats. We still need the vitamins that come in those fats. And, you know, you might eat fewer carbs if you're not working as hard, if you're not exercising as much. But you still absolutely need those fats. One of the things that butter and these good fats do is keep your metabolism going. Right. And if you don't have these fats, if you're eating the vegetable oils, your thyroid slows down and you gain weight no matter what you eat. So you really do need these fats to keep your metabolism burning properly, to keep your body temperature up.
So what would you say about the fats that are in vogue at the moment? The things like coconut oil, you know, everyone's ranting about them. They're sort of very rife in the health community, the bodybuilding community, the sports community. What you know, would you say substitute all your other oils that we think these days are good for us, like coconut oil and rapeseed oil, to fat, to like the butter, or should there be like a proportion? Like how should people start introducing things?
So your sound is breaking up a little bit, but what I like to say is make sure you get the 5 major fats. Number 1 is butter, absolutely essential. You can eat all the butter you want, and if you're doing bodybuilding, you need more butter.
It's good news for me.
Yeah. Number 1 is butter. Number 2 is an animal fat to cook in. We cook in lard or bacon fat, but it could be tallow or it could be ghee. Number 3 is olive oil for your salad dressings, and make your own salad dressing. The stuff that comes in the bottles is complete garbage. Number 4 is cod liver oil to get a bonus of vitamins A and D and your omega-3s. And number 5 is coconut oil, which is very helpful for the immune system and for your digestion. So those are the 5: butter, cooking fat such as lard or tallow, cod liver oil, olive oil for salad dressings, and coconut oil.
Yeah, because the Weston A. Price Foundation really sort of encourages cod liver oil. That is your sort of number 1 food, isn't it? So
we call it a superfood, yes.
Yeah, it's yours. But again, there's been a sort of lot of issues about, cod liver oil from sustainable sources. You know, they need to be certain suppliers. I mean, what's your sort of take on that?
Well, we do have recommended brands, and if you go to our website, you can find those brands listed on the website. But as far as being sustainable, you know, most of the time the livers are thrown away. Right. So we're just eating something that is not being used otherwise.
So how would you, a total skeptic, how would you gradually encourage them to sort of start taking up this kind of, going back to traditional foods? Because these are, and everyone that I've interviewed, all my guests have said exactly the same thing. So for any type of healing, you need to go back to traditional food. Would you say that's correct for most types of healing, Sally?
Yes, and to get rid of the bad food. So the first thing I recommend is a shelf and pantry clean out, cupboard clean out and pantry clean out. Just throw all those processed foods away.
Yes.
Buy real foods, start cooking for yourself. I'm not guaranteeing that will solve everybody's health problems, but it's the basis for solving the health problems. So you're not going to solve your health problems without going back to real food. You may need other things, but you absolutely need the food first.
But how do people deal with it when they sort of push for time to start making these, real foods? Because again, it's like what your grandma made. It's we all think of, and that's why people have gone to the processed foods and microwave meals, because they're all time consuming. So how would you sort of get around that issue? What would your suggestions be?
I'd say make time. Make time. Do it one way or another. Get up a little earlier, make your breakfast, make a lunch to take to work. Doesn't take long to make a nice dinner for yourself. I mean, you can put a salad together in 10 minutes, including making your own dressing. Bake a potato, cook a lamb chop. I mean, what's so time consuming about that? Just if you don't have a lot of time, cook simple foods. Another thing that some people do is spend part of their weekend, maybe Sunday afternoon, making a stew that they can have all week, making a soup that they can heat up. But you really need to take time. Otherwise, you're going to find that you're going to run out of time much sooner than you expected to.
So does the Price Foundation sort of encourage a lot of fruits and vegetables as well? Because obviously we've touched a lot on the butters and the correct oils to use. So, and that's what you found in sort of ancient primitive cultures. What about vegetables from the land and fruit?
All those foods are good. Grains are fine if they're properly prepared. Fruits and vegetables all make the diet interesting, but you can actually be very healthy without ever eating a vegetable.
Really?
You can be very healthy without ever eating a piece of fruit. In fact, vegetables and fruits are a modern luxury. There were many groups of human beings, certainly at certain times of the year, that never ate fruits and vegetables. One thing most cultures did was make fermented vegetables, which gave them their vitamin C during the winter months.
Do you want to touch more about fermented vegetables? Because my series at the moment is about gut health, digestive health, because that's an area that's sort of I read a lot about it because it's issues that I've had for over 20 years, and the more I read, I realize that so many people, actually 1 in 5, suffer from some kind of digestive health problem, and certain sectors of it are more prevalent in women. So do you want to tell me about sort of your experience of that and sort of fermented foods? Because a lot of the ancient civilizations ate a lot of fermented foods, didn't they, Sally?
All traditional cultures had fermented foods in their diet, whether it was the Eskimos fermenting their fish or the South Sea Islanders fermenting their cassava. Uh, they fermented everything. That was a way of preserving these foods. In Europe, typically what they fermented was cabbage to make sauerkraut. When you eat sauerkraut, you get 10 times more vitamin C than when you eat the cabbage. Vitamin C is greatly increased, B vitamins are increased. And the other thing that you're getting with every bite of sauerkraut is millions or billions of friendly bacteria. There are more friendly bacteria in one small serving of sauerkraut than there are in a whole bottle of probiotic pills. And this is what our guts need daily. They daily need these good bacteria going into the gut to give us a good digestion and good health. And just to give you one example, I had a letter from a gal who had suffered from Crohn's disease for 20 years. 20 years. She had tried everything, drugs, diets, everything. Within 2 weeks of starting to eat sauerkraut, her Crohn's was gone. She was completely well. And people are, these fell out of the diet with this whole notion that germs are bad and that these kind of foods are unsanitary. Everything had to be canned and sterilized and pasteurized. Now we see the folly of this. A sterile diet will kill us. We absolutely need these good bacteria in our foods.
So back to the fermented foods, because when I was sort of doing some research on this, like you said, every ancient civilization had a fermented foods, whether it was sourdough bread or a beverage that was fermented.
Or yogurt, yeah. Or beverages. They have the sour beers in Africa. They were getting really a lot of fermented foods in the diet.
So really, the more fermented foods you can get in a diet, the better your overall health.
Well, to a certain extent. I mean, you can overdo on anything, but yes, you definitely need them every day in your diet. And that's what my book did, Nourishing Traditions. It introduced this concept of fermented foods and fermented beverages to the public. That's where they first heard about them.
Because I read up a lot on kefir now. So do you want to talk about some of the different kind of fermented foods that what some of the different fermented foods that people can get readily available today or make today or learn from your book today, Sally?
Well, I don't know what's available in the UK. We have a lot available here in the States, but they're easy to make. I tried to make the recipes as simple as possible in Nourishing Traditions. So you've got sauerkraut, you've got various fermented vegetables, you can ferment fruits, you can make fermented chutneys. Raw milk you can make into yogurt or kefir. Sour cream is a fermented food, creme fraiche. Gravlax is fermented salmon. That's a wonderful food. Pickled herring. I mean, the list goes on. There's all sorts of ways to get your good bacteria.
And why do you think they sort of went out of vogue, these fermented foods? Because now they're sort of really back in, and I know a lot of the top trendy restaurants are serving things like kimchi as well, which is a Korean. Yes. But why do you think they went out of fashion? And sort of now they've come back with with the big gusts. What happened?
Well, I think they went out of fashion because, as I said, people wanted food that was sterile. They thought their food had to be sterile and that all bacteria were bad. Now we know that only a very small portion of bacteria are bad, and the vast majority of them are good and necessary for health. They've come back again with this whole interest in traditional foods, and I do think that was started with Nourishing Traditions.
Yeah, definitely. I read a lot of authors point back to Nourishing Traditions, so it definitely all started back with your book, Sally. So what other kind of stuff do you cover? What else is it? What else do you cover in Nourishing Traditions apart from fermented foods?
Well, a big theme is bone broths, gelatin-rich bone broths, which we all remember our grandmothers made. I was very lucky growing up because my mother made bone broth.
Yes.
And this is extremely important for gut health.
Yes.
In ways that we don't completely understand. But one thing we know is that behind the lining of the small intestine is a layer of cartilage. And that cartilage has to be healthy so you don't have a leaky gut, so you have good impervious intestinal tract. And the broth helps keep that cartilage in good health. So we need to use bone broth in soups and stews and gravies and sauces. And there are many delicious ways of getting it into your diet. And that's the thing I like to say about this diet. There's no renunciation in this diet. It's absolutely delicious. And you can have wonderful sauces. You can have delicious soups. And we teach you how to make the bone broths.
So bone broths, are they limited just to, because I've heard that you can make them out of chicken as well. Is there sort of...
Yeah, any bones, chicken, duck, turkey. You can make beef bone broth. You can make lamb bone, pork bone. Fish bone broth is one of the bases of good French cooking. Or you can mix them. You can mix the different bones.
Yeah, all leading to something that's very good for your gut and that tastes delicious.
Yes, right.
So
and another theme for digestive health is proper preparation of grains.
yes.
And one of the reasons that people get in trouble today is they're eating whole grains that have not been properly prepared. Traditional cultures soaked or fermented or soured these grains before they ate them. So perfect example is the sourdough bread that Dr. Price described in Switzerland. This was not made with yeast. It was made with a culture, and it basically ferments the bread and breaks down all of the irritating and difficult to digest components that are in grains. So we really have to pre-digest these grains.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm Asian and we grew up with lentils, so some diet principles where they say you're not allowed, grains. That's a total shock to me. But yeah, like you said, you pre-soak them. My mum sort of soaks them in water the night before, and you change the water to get rid of phytic acid and a lot of the ancient cultures.
The enzyme inhibitors, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So really, it's just about understanding preparatory methods correctly and just going back to your traditional roots, isn't it, Sally?
Exactly. And again, people don't want to take the time, but it really doesn't take a lot of time. It's just you have to think ahead. For example, we have oatmeal in the morning. All we do is put it into soak the night before. It takes a minute. It just takes a minute to put it into soak. And then it cooks up more quickly the next morning anyway, and it's much more digestible. So it's really not such a question of time. It's a question of planning. And that's a very good skill to have in life, to plan and to prepare in advance, not just for your food, but for everything. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with developing those skills in the kitchen.
A lot of people are actually, a lot of people, their stomachs can't take milk. Obviously, they're lactose intolerant. So how does raw milk come into play there? Is it different? Is it the same? What exactly is raw milk? Yeah, Sally.
So we call it real milk. That's milk that has all the fat in it, that comes from cows eating grass, and that hasn't been heated in any way. And yes, this milk is much easier to digest. At least 80% of people who have trouble with commercial milk can do fine on raw milk. And it's a wonderful healing food. It contains a lot of components that do heal the digestive tract.
That's brilliant. That's good news, that is. And when, I was talking to you before the show started, I was saying it's fascinated me now, so I'm going to go and get myself some raw milk. Because you've actually got a list of them on your website, haven't you? Yes.
We have a website called realmilk.com, and you can go there and find real milk wherever you live, including in international locations. So you can find raw milk in the UK. I have a son who lives in London, and he gets his raw milk delivered.
So it's not impossible for people that want to go back to good, nourishing, traditional foods to sort of find the source for them.
It's not impossible. Yeah.
And the other thing is, so obviously you gave an example of someone who was on sauerkraut for 2 weeks and she was healed of a Crohn's. Do you have any other examples of that? Maybe someone who came with IBS or an intolerance or something.
Well, I don't have any as dramatic as that, but a lot of people have overcome these digestive problems with a combination of whole foods, the good fats, lacto-fermented foods, broth, proper preparation of grains. Those are the things that you need to do to recover your digestive health. I mean, when your digestion is in revolt, it's telling you, I can't digest these foods that you're eating.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Because I sort of turned to clean foods, and when I turned to clean foods, that's when my sort of digestion healed itself. So
Yeah.
the non-processed, the non-sugar related. So would you suggest if someone wants to start nourishing themselves and healing themselves, they just they just go cold turkey on everything bad for them and just start with it and just
Well, I would start by getting rid of all the processed food in your kitchen and using butter and making your salad dressing. That's where I'd start. And then you can add the other things little by little.
Brilliant. And do you have any other nuggets for our sort of listeners? Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic information this is, because like I said, it's just so controversial for every other diet theory. But do you have any other sort of tidbits or any other suggestions? Oh, so your top 2 healing foods for good digestive health. I mean, I think we've sort of covered it, but just in a nutshell, what would be your top 2 healing foods?
Well, I'm not sure are they the top 2, but they'd be good fats, lacto-fermented foods, bone broths. Another thing I have to mention is salt. Salt is extremely important for digestion. Make sure you're eating enough salt, and we recommend the unrefined Celtic sea salt. But for your listeners, if they're new to this, go to our website. It's westonaprice.org. And on the right-hand side, you'll see Take a Tour. And if you're new to all these ideas, that's where I'd start. Our website is absolutely huge, but take a tour first and get familiar with our concepts.
Yeah, because I was reading that as well. Salt is important for your diet to sort of for regulation from an osmosis point of view.
Yeah, absolutely, and to digest, you need the chloride to make hydrochloric acid. To digest proteins, and you need these sodium to make enzymes to digest the carbohydrates.
So, from what I've read and from what I've heard from you, we've actually made ourselves ill because we've moved away from, the healing foods and the healing substances. We've actually made ourselves ill, which is why, by the year 2020, 2 out of 3 people are actually going to have a lifestyle-related disease.
Yes. Yeah, we're headed for a real disaster, and we as a culture, as a society, we don't have the resources to handle all that illness, and we need to learn, each and every one of us, to eat properly and to take care of our own health.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. But then again, your theory throws theories like a vegetarian diet or the paleo principles completely out of the water.
Well, there are no cultures who actually ate this way.
Right.
This is not how people ate. They didn't eat the way the paleo people said they eat. They didn't eat the way the vegetarians said they ate. Yeah. They ate the way we describe.
Well, yeah, and I watched a full sort of, like I said, I've done a bit of research before this, and it makes total sense what every single culture, they had their own traditional diets, but they were all rich in essential components, like you've mentioned. So they actually didn't eat the way that a lot of these other diet theories and principles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one thing all traditional cultures did is they ate special nutrient-dense foods for pregnancy and for having babies. Yeah. And for the growth of babies. So, for example, all the pregnant women ate liver. They ate fish eggs. They ate butter from cows eating green grass. So all of these components were there in spades, extra for the stress of having children.
And when you say nutrient-dense foods, because I know the Price Foundation is actually big on return to nutrient-dense foods as well. What are nutrient-dense foods, Sally?
Well, they are the animal fats, butter from grass-fed cows, raw milk, organ meats like liver, certain seafoods like fish eggs, shellfish like shrimp. These are the nutrient-dense foods.
So it's a food that have got a lot of nutrients, the actual nutrients that you need
Right.
for your body and to function at an optimal
For a low amount of calories.
for a low amount of calories. So that's
for example, to get the calcium that you need, you can get it in 2 cups of raw milk a day. You'd have to eat 40 carrots to get that same calcium from carrots, and that would be about 2,000 calories. If you could eat the 40 carrots, if you could stand to eat 40 carrots, it's about 800 calories if you get it from the milk.
And liver's super. I mean, again, I know in the olden days they used to eat liver, and that is a super nutrition.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the most nutrient-dense food there is.
So yeah, really, I think the message here is for overall healing and gut healing. You need to go back to your traditional foods and I mean, the thing is, I do a lot of research over the internet, and you know how. So people that want to start researching these things over the internet, obviously they can go to realmilk.com for the pasteurized milk. There's a lot of resources on your website as well, isn't there? There's for like you said, the cod liver oil capsules and
go to westonaprice.org. You'll find a link to information about the cod liver oil right on the website, and then you can take a tour and find out more information.
Okay, brilliant. So if there's one food, as this is fuelyourselffabulous.tv, if there's a number one food that you think our listeners and viewers should be taking to fuel themselves fabulous, what would that be, Sally?
It's butter. Eat butter. And all the butter you want.
Do you know what?
The healthiest fat on the planet.
You know, you were before the show when I was saying, Sally, have I got a healthy face? And you were asking me to show me my teeth. I, as a child, used to scrape the butter, you know, because I grew up in the village. I used to scrape tons of butter, and I used to eat that. Yeah.
Very good for you. Very good for you. You were doing the right thing. Your body knew what to do.
Yeah, my body. So that's why I've got good teeth, which is a reflection, according to the Weston A. Price Foundation research, of our overall sort of good health.
That's right. Correct? Right. Yes.
Yeah, so no, this has been fascinating stuff. I was so looking forward to doing this interview, Sally. Thank you so much. And I know a lot of our listeners were, but is there any questions? Does anyone have any questions for Sally? I'm gonna have to flip through my screens here, so just to get the questions. So as usual, if you could leave your questions right at the bottom of this page, there's a section that you can post them at. So if you could leave them there, then Sally can get them answered. Okay, so Sally, I've got a question coming in from a Louise from Canada, and she was saying that she's got a highly acidic stomach. And does the Weston A. Price diet account for these symptoms or these sort of troubles?
I'm wondering if it's highly acidic or it's lacking acid. But I definitely get more salt in your diet, so you're making the right amount of hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, that was something that we touched on last time. People think that they've got a high acid diet, but it could actually be a low acid.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's low stomach acid. I mean, she's getting reflux and things like that, but that's often with low stomach acid.
So, I mean, again, I don't know if this is within sort of the scope of your research, but how do you differentiate if it's high acid or low acid, Sally?
That I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh,
I'm sure there's tests, but I don't know how.
okay, all right. But anyway, so salt for the diet for
Yeah.
Louise. And okay, this is a one coming in from Hannah from Australia, and she was saying that the original research was done a long time ago. So is it still feasible today? I mean, is sort of, yeah, is this still feasible today?
The human genetics have not changed. We need the same kind of diets that nourished our ancestors. We show the scientific validation of these foodways. We do it all the time in our journal. I mean, that's what we are devoted to, is showing the modern scientific validation of traditional foodways.
Yeah, and there's a vast array of information. And the thing is, my background is science. You know, I've got a master's. So when I went onto your site and I saw all the research and publications, for me, I need validity. I need sort of hardcore facts. And you've certainly, you know, over the years, published a lot of papers with a lot of scientific fact attached to them, haven't you, Sally?
Yes, yes. We really make sure that the latest research is commented on. Very often the research is misinterpreted. I just give you one example. There was a study came out and the headline was "Saturated fats bad for the brain." And this study had looked at rats and they had actually injected some saturated fat into the brain and it killed some brain cells. But that's not real life. That's not how we eat saturated fat. So you have to be very careful how these studies are presented to the public.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into sort of I don't want to, you know, get into sort of very like kind of taboo areas here. But I was reading the research as well that was carried out by Colin Campbell of the China study, and how various sections of that may not be as accurate as presented in the book.
He does not tell the truth about the China study. I mean, I have looked at the raw data from the China study, and I can tell you that he didn't find any more or less disease in areas that were eating more plant foods. If anything, the healthiest people he studied were from northern China, where they were eating a lot of dairy products and a lot of meat. And what he says is just simply not true. He also misrepresents the other research that he did in his career. I really feel very strongly that we need to tell people that you just can't listen to Colin Campbell. He's just wrong. He's lying to you.
And for those that don't know who Colin Campbell is he wrote a book called The China Study, and that's sort of become the Bible for vegetarianism and sort of veganism. It's sort of very much angled towards that.
And of course the food industry loves it when we eat vegetarian foods because the profits are a lot higher on vegetarian foods. But go to our website and just put it in China Study and you'll get several articles about it.
Yeah,
I feel that he's done a lot of harm. People who lie about their research, who have an agenda like this that does not jive with reality, and who mislead people into eating a diet that's very unhealthy. They have a lot to answer for.
Because, yeah, like you said, your organization, the Weston A. Price Foundation, is not backed by a government body, or I mean, it's
right. No food industry. Yes, yes.
So anything you put out there, it's correct. There's no sort of no
agenda. Yeah.
There's no agenda. No, this is fantastic. And oh yeah, one more question, and this is from myself actually. Being an athlete or training or getting back in the gym, and do you need as much protein? Could we use like raw milk, or could we use milk instead of the whey proteins? Because
I think these protein powders are terrible. Of course, for a long time, it was the soy powders that they were pushing, and we pointed out these soy powders are really toxic. They're full of estrogens, and the men developed breasts when they were taking the soy powders. So now they're pushing the whey powders. Now, whey is a waste product from the cheese industry. It's very fragile, and when it's made into a powder, the proteins are completely denatured. They're not good for you. And also, you end up getting too much protein. Yes, bodybuilders need more protein, but that is easy to get in the Western diet. We are not lacking protein. What we're lacking are the good fats, and they're harder to get in the diet. The bodybuilders, great food for bodybuilders is raw milk, broth, plenty of butter, and yes, eat a good steak, eat liver a couple times a week. You need those things also.
Yeah, no, fascinating, fascinating. Stefan, you've got a new book coming out as well, haven't you? You've got a new book coming out, Sally.
Well, it's already out. It's called Nourishing Broth, and it's out in the bookstores. I'm sure it's available in the UK.
Oh, brilliant. So yeah, so Sally's advice is for just go back to real traditional foods, the fermented foods, the bone broths, raw pasteurized milk, and just eat like our ancestors did, really. And yeah, you should start getting recovery to overall health. Is that correct, Sally?
Well, we've had a lot of people tell us that they have. We don't make any promises because some people really are very, very sick.
Yes.
But this diet needs to be the basis of your return to health.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, you know what my aim always is obviously, like Sally, if you're sick, and you obviously doctors are there for a reason, but I just offer alternative suggestions, and diet and lifestyle is a big part of our overall health. And my guests can give you angles from their own research and obviously from their findings with their own sort of clients and patients. So thank you very much, Sally. Thank
you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for tuning in. This was an amazing show today. So it's Sabrina Khan over and out from fuelyourselffabulous.tv. And before I go, for any future shows, I'm gonna put a link up on my Facebook page. So for future shows, you can actually opt into my list, so you can keep updated on what I've got coming up. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.